Hey everybody, Eric Hayden here in the garden today. On and off showers have really kept us out of the garden itself, so I thought it would be a pretty good opportunity to talk about a project I'm working on with regards to organizing the shed. I store, all my fertilizers in here. I've got my lawnmower, wheelbarrow, the backpack sprayer, and then over on this shelf I have my chemicals, either fungicides, insecticides, things like that. And I'm doing this video because I've already started the process, so this shed looks way better than it used to. I always had those chemicals stored in those tubs, but they were on the floor. The backpack sprayers were on the floor. I could kind of just barely walk in here. And my wife had organized it before. I didn't keep it up, so it was on me to do it. And toward the back, I always did have piles of fertilizer, and I had some in tubs. We'll talk about that in a second. The point of today's video is going to talk about storing your fertilizer. How do you do it? Do you use tubs? Do you have enough that storage is a concern? We'll go over that. Maybe in a later video, I'm going to talk about how I just bought some new hangers. This is not for a backpack sprayer right now, but same type of idea to get those sprayers up off the ground. So the point of today's video is really to talk about the organizers, the totes that I got at one of the big box stores. And then again, down the road, perhaps we'll tackle the chemicals. So the way I've done stuff before is these 4-gallon totes. I use them to mix my liquid fertilizer. So the ones without lids, I've got them stacked up. I've got these at one of my favorite grocery stores, Wegmans, up in New York State. We lived up in the southern tier of New York. But a lot of grocery stores in the bakery section will give you these for free. They come with lids. I like that they're 4 gallons, a little lighter. Just a 1-gallon difference is lighter than a 5-gallon container. They have lids, and I have used them before for storage, and that's what I'm doing right now. I like to keep everything elevated. Usually, if I'm doing really well, I'll cut the label off of the container. I really need to put this on the side so I can view it when it's stacked. And it has a nice lid to keep the fertilizer dry because even this is getting a little hard right now, soaking up the moisture. A lot of fertilizers are hygroscopic, so they will absorb that moisture and then turn rock solid, especially this magnesium nitrate. Some other granular fertilizers I have, not as big of a deal. But again, I've been using this. This is Blue Chip right here. Again, these granular fertilizers don't seem to have a big deal. You certainly don't want them getting wet, but as long as they have a closed lid, they're okay. Stuff like this magnesium nitrate, that stuff really attracts the moisture and can get clumpy. So I've used these tubs before. They're fine. But by and large, I ran out of space. You can see I have an excess of fertilizer. Usually when I get fertilizer, I buy in bulk. The place I go to is 2 miles one way. I get a lot of different things. You can see I have 0030 there. That's mainly for the lawn. In the fall, our centipede lawn likes to have good levels of potassium, and it leaches out pretty readily here in our sandy soils. So NC State recommends to put that down in the fall. I've got 0030, 0050, and 0060, just depending on what they had. I've used this especially in the rose garden, nitroform urea. It takes up to 4 months to break down. So again, a lot of fertilizer. Back in there is cottonseed meal. I've got my 18612 that I use for the rose garden. You can see that over here. This most recent time I use holly tone instead of rose tone. So you can see got a lot of different fertilizers here. And with the location being so far away, I try to buy in bulk. So I already have enough fertilizer through next spring for the lawn and for the roses, probably for the next year at least. The cottonseed meal, 50-pound bag, I may need some of that by fall of next year. But anywho, so I'm trying something different, and that's what I'm going to show you today. These are tubs or totes, however you want to call them. I'll call them nice buckets with handles. I got these at one of the big box stores. They are 5 gallons, so similar. to what I have back there. They do cost money. The ones at the bakery you have to clean out, and sometimes maybe not quite as heavy duty, but they're free. These were about $6 a piece at one of the big box stores. And speaking of that, I'm going to go through what we're using for this to store this fertilizer and how I came to this. You can buy those 5-gallon buckets at the box stores, and surprisingly, you had to pay for the lid. And when you averaged it all out, it was slightly more than these. It was a little over 6, where these are right at 6. And with a square top, they really stacked nicely with each other. I know the 5-gallon circular buckets, you know what I'm talking about, Home Depot, Lowe's, they all sell them. They can stack, but being a square shape, I thought it would be a better stacking. The lids on them, even though the other ones had like a rubber grommet or layer on the inside, they didn't snap into place. These snap into place. So they seem more airtight, heavier duty. They've got the handle, because sometimes I'll carry the fertilizer into the garden, and they were slightly cheaper. I think it was $6.38 when you added the lid and the bucket at the big box store, and this all together with the lid was $5.99. So I've got 10 of these. I'm going to get started on that. I'm going to put my fertilizers in there and then cut out the label and put the label on the side. I should mention that even being as careful as I can, these don't technically have holes in the bag, but this type of company seems to put something near the top, so if you loosely undo one of the corners, you can pour the fertilizer out. I've never figured that out, so I always tend to get a little bit of fertilizer in my storage shed. You can see some there and back there, so you know how it is. They either get holes in it. You can see I've put tape on some older bags. You can see the nitroform urea there, but they're always leaking all over the place, so I like to get this all into the totes, stacked up, and we should be good from there. So let's get started. And again, it's raining pretty good outside, so the garden's loving that. I need to get a light in my shed, but aside from that, it's nice when I can work in the pouring rain but still get things done for the garden. In this case, it's the storage shed. So let me get cracking on this, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. First thing I've noticed is I got lucky. The 5-gallon size I thought would work pretty well. All those totes I have in the back that I mentioned I got at the Wegmans Bakery were 4-gallon, and I really like those for applying liquid fertilizer because with the corners in the square shape and 4 gallons, it was a good weight. I could lug around with that type of fertilizer application. With the 5-gallon container, this has worked out perfectly so far. My first bag, I guess it'll depend on the size, but the first bag of 0030 is 50 pounds, and that fit perfectly in here. So a lot of my quantities are no more than 50. A lot of the synthetics are 50, the cottonseed meal, but some of the others like the alfalfa pellets, it's got a bigger shape, and it's 40 pounds, so we'll see how that fits. But so far, so good. Now that I've dumped it into the container on the first one, I'm going to cut out this label and then put it on the side so I know what it is. All right, just about wrapped up here. Rain has cleared up, so it's looking like a nice day. The tubs worked out really well. I did jinx myself in the beginning, the 0030. I said, wow, most of my fertilizers are 50 pounds or less, and that fit in the 5-gallon tote really well, and I thought I was home free. Well, as you know, pound doesn't mean the same as volume. So while most of this did fit in, a 50-pound bag for the most part did fit in a 5-gallon container, sometimes it didn't. So I've got a little bit left of Snapshot. That's in that container. So when I'm done, that pre-emergent, I'll transfer the label over there. Same type of thing, anything organic. This cottonseed meal, I got like a half bag left, so it's going to take 2 totes to store that. So I may go get one more. I kind of stockpiled 0030 a lot, and I probably won't need all that much. So the other school of thought is once I use up that next year, I'll just use that for something like alfalfa pellets, stuff that I don't have right now. So I may still need to pick up a tub or 2, but you can see most are labeled. The ones that are not, like this one, right above it is what it is, which is Snapshot. So when I go ahead and put the cottonseed meal in, I don't have the label yet, but I'll put the unmarked container with the cottonseed meal above it, so I know what it is. And it's pretty obvious on some of them what the fertilizer is when you just take a peek at it. For some other things, 0060, I had just a teensy bit left, so I just spread that in the rose garden throughout. And then I have a full bag that I plan to use in the fall on our centipede lawn. So rather than waste a container, since I already have one container dedicated to it, I'm just going to open that bag, and I'm going to use all 50 pounds here in about a month or two anyway. These other leftover totes, you saw before, magnesium nitrate. Some have urea in it, and some have blue chip. I'll just stack those up. But you can see that I got a lot of trash, a lot of bags to get rid of, and it is a lot more organized than it was before. My next task is to organize this shelf. I probably don't need all these shelves, and I'm going to look to do something with these chemicals, put them in some smaller containers, and keep them organized instead of one humongous one, and a lot of wasted space on that shelf. So that's the next thing. But that's it. If you're wondering, the labels, I just cut them off the bag. They're nice, and just put tape on them, packaging tape to keep them against the container. And that seems to work well. I like that they're in something with a handle, so very similar to what I did before. I may end up taking them out into the garden sometimes. And I gotta admit, this is one of those big box store 5-gallon containers. That's what I was aiming for, but they were sold out, and I'm glad I got what I got. It was a little cheaper, and it's stacking really nice. I like the yellow and black, kind of a nice color contrast there, and we'll go from there. So the shed's coming along. If I do a little bit more, I'll put a video up on that. I got some of these ideas in terms of organizational stuff hanging up the sprayer from YouTube. It's amazing what you can get watching all these videos. If you are wondering, this back here, other than the kids' toys, this is all Rose Show material. Vases and a whole bunch of stuff that our society had that got flooded out with Hurricane Florence. So I agreed to take what was not damaged. So a lot of vases and things like that you need for a rose show. So that's what's back there stored until we do our next rose show. Have a great day, everybody. And as always, subscribe to the page. You'll be getting updates and notifications on our latest videos.